Hey, Cleveland, this is Tristan Thompson of the Cleveland Cavaliers, and you're listening to Sports Fix.
Sports Fix listeners, do you tweet? So do we. So tweet with us 24/7 at the Sports Fix CLE.
Hey guys, J-Rocc here from the Sports Fix, and we always talking about using our platform to try to help the world and the society we live in, and everywhere I go and everywhere we go, bullying is one of the biggest problems in today's society. There's nothing worse than any person, big or small, strong or weak, adult or child, feeling picked on, pushed around, vulnerable, and victimized at the hands of a bully. Change comes one person at a time, and my good friends at No Such Thing as a Bully are working on skills and techniques and ways that we can all change and make things better for everyone. Find out more at nosuchthingasabully.com.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Harry Buffalo. Harry Buffalo, join the herd.
Live in Ohio, it's time to get your fix. The Sports Fix.
And away we go, off and running. Hump Day edition of the Sports Fix here Wednesday afternoon. Man, what a night last night. We're going to have some fun here right off the bat, talking about an incredible Game 5. The Cavs and the Bulls. Man, this series has been one for the record books for sure. And last night did not disappoint, continued to deliver on what's been an amazing series. And I'll tell you what, LeBron James, seriously, man, you give credit where credit is due, and last night, I'll go so far as to say I'll put that right up there with Detroit, with the game where he scored 25 straight points. I'll put that up there as the signature LeBron James games as a Cleveland Cavalier. You can tell me if you've got some more on the list, but man, last night, and I've got some stats to back that up, man. Last night was one of those nights, and the Cavaliers needed that as a team. They came up big, and they have grabbed control of this series, but by no means is this thing over. You've got to head back to Chicago, where you were a buzzer beater away from going 0 for 2 or 2-0, depending on which way you look at it. So we're going to talk about all of that here, getting rolling. We've got Doug Plagens, the voice of the Cleveland Gladiators and the Lake Erie Monsters, who share Quicken Loans Arena with the Cavaliers franchise down there. Doug's going to join us here early on in the show. We'll talk to him, see what he's feeling about these Cavs, talk a little Gladiators as well. Dan Wismar from the Cleveland Fan and EverybodyHatesCleveland.com. He's going to be with us talking, what else? Some Cavaliers hoops. We'll talk the Indians as well, as they missed another opportunity last night to win back-to-back games. Haven't done it all season long. It's since the beginning of the season, and last night was a tough one again for those of you that braved it out with the Cardinals, 8-3 loss. We'll talk about that. Whole lot more going on here we're going to get into as the show goes on. So for no further ado, let's get rocking and rolling, guys. Welcome into the Sports Fix. I'm your host, the Big Daddy on the microphone. They call me that. You call me whatever you want. J-Rocc, Jerry Myers, the conductor of the madness here, whatever you will. Just call me. Happy to have you here each and every weekday, as we say, live at noon across the Sports Fix radio network. For so many of you, maybe you're listening live on TuneIn, TuneIn's radio app, worldwide, all over the place, all over live on TuneIn. It's truly a global site there. As well, Spreaker and Mixler and their respective digital and mobile applications. Or perhaps you're one of the many that listen to us right off our home base, thesportsfix.net. It's also your one-stop shop. Everything you need, Cleveland sports, all of our links to the replays of the show, all the places you can listen. Our social media widgets are built right into the page, embedded right there. Lots of great stuff. Check it out. thesportsfix.net, as well as we say all the time, the thousands around the world who listen on digital delay 24/7. Sites like iHeartRadio, the world's largest internet radio network, iTunes, Stitcher Radio, SoundCloud, listening on CarPlay, and I got another one of those emails from Stitcher. Even more adaptation to the cars now, and now Spreaker and Stitcher, and I believe TuneIn are now all being automatically built in. As a matter of fact, that was the one I just got from TuneIn, was the latest about 2 or 3 weeks ago, that they're now built in to many of the new cars that are coming out, to where, as we've talked about before, I mean, the day is coming quickly where there'll be no difference between the terrestrial radio dial and the internet airwaves. And satellite radio slowly began that bridge, but now even more. You don't even need any special hookups now, a lot of the new cars, but TuneIn is now built in specifically in many vehicles, which is just opening up even more of an audience there. I'm telling you, I always get a kick out of guys that say, hey, driving around and listening to you on my ride home, because just a few years ago, that wasn't possible with what we're doing here, and technology just continues to evolve and expand, and hopefully we can stay on the front edge of that. All right, you guys, anyways, enough of that. Get your fix, do your thing, be a part of the show. This is us, baby. Do the thing together. Facebook, Twitter, phone calls, all of them open. 216-539-7535, the number to call. 216-539-7535. Can't get through, or you're using your phone perhaps to listen to the show, as so many of you do. Use your social media, Facebook and Twitter. Type it at us, facebook.com/thesportsfix. Make sure you like the page while you're there. Tweet with us at the Sports Fix CLE. Email us, thesportsfix@aol.com, facebook.com/thesportsfix. Tweet with us your thoughts, starting with the Cavaliers and the Bulls last night, Game 5, at the Sports Fix CLE, and the Cavaliers in a must-win game for both teams. We talked about heading into the game, both franchises, how in their history, sometimes these things just work out this way. Game 5, always important, but more important with the Cavaliers and the Bulls franchises than others, just historically and traditionally. The Cavaliers, 9 series have gone to a Game 5, tied at 2. 8 of the 9 times that the winner of Game 5 went on to win the series. That's a pretty delineated there, right there. Same thing with the Chicago Bulls. 9 times they've gone to a Game 5 tied at 2. When they've lost Game 5, they're 0-9 in those series. When they've won Game 5, they're 10-1. It's amazing the difference, and hopefully that trend continues, because the Cavaliers grabbed control of this series last night, 106-101 at the Q last night. Crowd was absolutely raucous, and I've got to tell you, seriously, you knew that guys had to step up, and you were looking, and all over the place, the Cavaliers had different people step up throughout this game, from Delly to Kyrie, who stepped up big, as injured as he is. Tristan Thompson continues to deliver another double-double. Shumpert, a great game. I mean, everybody chipping in across the board, but, you know, we wondered the health status of LeBron James. I mean, he rolled the heck out of his ankle, as we saw down near the end of Game 4. I mean, he was getting as much rest on it as possible, sat out the shoot-around yesterday to try to make sure that he could get out there and move around, and he did more than just move around. As I said at the top of the show, to me, that performance last night is one of the signature. You've got to put it up there with the Detroit game. That's the only one I sat back and thought off the top of my head. There's others. Trust me, I know. There's others. He set all kinds of franchise records. There's been some great games. But just thinking big, huge, must-win, playoff-type performances, this in Detroit, this is right up there as the peak of what he's done in a Cleveland Cavaliers jersey. 38 points, 12 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 steals, 3 blocks, no turnovers. And I mean, he started his press conference after the game saying, "Yay me." But yes, for sure, because that was huge, unbelievably huge. The stat line reads big when you read it off of a piece of paper. When you watched it happen in the game, it was truly a dominant performance. Absolutely. I mean, you would have to be blind not to acknowledge that. I mean, the effort defensively. How about talking about blocked shots? How about the one where he misses the block with his right hand, and as he's coming down, he retries to block the shot and does with his left hand? I mean, that's an outstanding effort right there. Just absolutely amazing. And that's what you've got to do when you are the leader, when you are one of the best players in the league. All those things that come with that part and parcel was what he did last night. But the fact that he played, and David Blatt brought that up after the game, most guys, they roll an ankle like that, it's the dreaded high ankle sprain. They're out 3 weeks minimum before, they're in the walking boot the next day. And LeBron didn't just play, but he went out there and played at that level, which was absolutely awe-inspiring. I will be the first one to tell you that. Awe-inspiring. I mean, here's some stats that come out of that. I mean, a lot of people talked about it's the 33rd time that LeBron led the team in the triple-double categories in the postseason, which is more than any other player by leaps and bounds. Larry Bird's number 2 with 13. But that, to me, speaks sometimes to the teammates that he had. We know how it was over the years with LeBron compared to a lot of the teams that he had, even though I think the end teams that he had were better than some people credit. Still, you've got to be you would be blind not to acknowledge that. But I will say this. I mean, I will say there's a couple stats that really blew my mind when you look at them in the context of some of the greats in the game. One of them is the fact that LeBron became one of only 3 players in NBA history to have 35 points, 10 boards, and 5 assists with no turnovers. And the only 2 that ever did that were Larry Bird in 1986, and that 86 Celtics team was just one of the greatest teams ever, and Shaq with the 2000 Lakers. That's it. That's the only 2 times, and remember that was a dominant Shaq performance then, the only 2 times in playoff history that's been done. And that's amazing right there. And LeBron's got 2 games now in his postseason career where he's played 40 minutes and had 35 points, 5 assists, no turnovers. Nobody else has had more than 1 since the NBA has been keeping track of the turnover statistic more than 40-some years ago. I mean, just absolutely amazing. The performance last night, efficiency as well is the other thing that you've got to credit on the offensive end. It wasn't just raining shots from all over. It was better shot selection and just more efficient. Some of that, of course, is the numbers. They're going to catch up. I mean, you're not going to continue to shoot poorly no matter how it's going. So some of that's the law of statistics, the law of averages. But a lot of it also was efficiency. He was getting to the paint, getting in the middle. 9 of 11 in the paint last night was LeBron, and he needed to do that because he's been shooting so poorly from outside throughout the remainder of the series we saw. And again, whether you're talking on the offensive end, rebounding, defensively, I tell you, whether it's the blocks that counted or the hustle plays that adjusted shots even when there weren't blocks. There were low blocks. There were slapaways. I mean, defensively, I'll tell you, period, if you're into this kind of basketball, you're in heaven with this series because these 2 teams are leaving nothing out there to spare. They're throwing it all out on the court defensively. I mean, both teams going through stretches where they'll shut the other team down for long stretches of time offensively. And I don't think you credit that just to bad offense. I think that's a couple of great defensive teams out here battling. It's getting nasty. I mean, guys are hustling. How about it late in the game? Could come back to play a role in this series. You saw the tie-up with Delly, and he got Gibson tossed from the game, which double-ticked me off because I can't lie, I had Gibson playing. I had Delly as well, but I was playing DraftKings for the games last night, and I did. I lost Gibson for the whole 4th quarter, but that's fine. I'd much rather win the game for the Cavaliers. They can have my money over there on DraftKings.com. But anyways, they get tied up down there, and little bit of gamesmanship, and you can really see when they break down the play what happened early on the high screen, and then it followed through. They go down. Delly kind of hooks him a bit as he's getting up, and there's a kick in the back. And then also, too, I'll tell you what, to me, I think you've got to consider the fact that he then also took a swing at J.R. Smith as well coming off of there. I mean, that could play into some things here, but you had that happen, and you could just kind of see Chicago lose their cool. But credit Chicago. Hey, credit Chicago because they could have folded. You felt them losing their composure, and instead they bucked up like a championship pedigree does, and they made a run as well. at the Cavaliers. And I'll tell you, speaking of runs, by the way, how about the back and forth before we get to the end? At the end of the third quarter, Cavaliers starting to roll, hit the three. It looks like, oh man, all right, they've got the double-digit lead heading into the fourth quarter. Mirotic with that three-quarter court shot was about 50-some feet. And no bucket, no rim, no nothing but net, like the old Jordan and Larry Bird commercial. But man, still the Cavaliers seemed like they were grabbing control. You see guys losing their composure and all of that. And to me, I was having visions of the end. If you remember back when they finally did beat Detroit, when they got over that hump. And at the end of that series, you had Wallace getting tossed out of the game and throwing his headband and guys losing their composure. And I really started to think, okay, I think maybe we're reaching that point with Chicago where they're starting to reach their breaking point. But give them credit. They fought back, and they had a chance to tie that game at the end. Derrick Rose comes down there, final segments of the game, and LeBron once again comes up with the huge block that most likely saved a game-tying play there. And who knows, we saw how you can never control how the last 20.3 or whatever seconds are going to go in a playoff game. And the Cavaliers luckily didn't have to worry about that. Kyrie had a few free throws to seal things down the stretch, and the Cavaliers finished it off and took care of business 106-101. They've got a 3-2 lead in the series. Teams historically have an 80+% chance of winning the series. The Cavaliers have now given themselves 2 bites at the apple with Game 7 if they need it at home. I will cautionary tale throw right out there at you that the San Antonio Spurs put themselves in the exact same position, flip-flopped with the chance to go home and beat the Clippers last round in Game 6. They didn't get it done in either one, so it is definitely not out of the realm of possibility that the Cavaliers could end up falling short in this series if they take their eye off the ball. And that's why Game 6 is just going to be crucial. They've got to go to Chicago, and they have got to buck up one more time in front of that wild Chicago crowd. And the Bulls are going to throw everything at them. We saw, even though it's a different scenario, look at Game 4 against the Boston Celtics, and look at, as we know, how costly that ended up being. But you've got that same everything against the wall, we've got nothing to lose mentality against an even more physical team than that. And these two teams have already got some bad blood going. So keep that stuff in mind, you guys. We're going to talk more about this. I've got to hit the break, and I've got a new Cavalier song as we hit the break. I've got Doug Plagens coming on just a few minutes from now to join us. But Retro Artistry, my friends here hit us up on Twitter, sent me their new Wine and Gold anthem. I got to tell you, it's kind of sweet. So I told them I'm going to play it here on the show, and I want you guys to take a listen as we hit the break. When we come back, Doug Plagens of the Lake Erie Monsters and the Cleveland Gladiators joined us. We'll talk a little Cavs, little Glads, little Monsters. Dan Wismar still to come and more, but first, enjoy this Wine and Gold anthem by Retro Artistry.
I'm from the city where they ballin' wine and gold. I'm from the city where they ballin' wine and gold. This ain't for me, I'm putting on for the sea. Working hard all summer trying to see victory. Failure is not an option. Failure is not an option. I told you I'm gon' hold it down and I gotta keep my promise. I gotta keep my promise. My team is like my brothers. CMB, we all we got. I feel bad for the mothers. It's a war going on the court, so take cover. If you going in, I'll be right there to support you. Hit them with that pick and roll. Turn around and give and go. Putting points on the board till that final buzzer go. Hit them with that pick and roll. Turn around and give and go. Putting points on the board till that final buzzer go. All for one and one for all. No I in team, but I will ball. Not just for me, the whole team involved. Not just for me, the whole team involved. All for one and one for all. No I in team, but I will ball. Not just for me, the whole team involved. Not just for me, the whole team involved.
I do it for my city, my team well put together. All for one and one for all. We achieve together, you just gotta play your role. Do what's best for the team. We believe in each other, we chasing the same dream. We do it for the fans, we fuel up for support. We giving our best effort, we leave it all on on the court. Being humble is the key. It set my mind free. We develop as a unit and we see victory. I work so I shine. I grind all the time. I miss the fourth quarter when the game's on the line. When there's pressure, I don't fold. I just manage and adjust. I believe in my team. In time, we build trust. We working every day and results have been noticed. I'm so dedicated, I could never lose focus.
I'm from the city where they ballin', wine and go.
As long as we play together, we can take control because
all for one and one for all. No I in team, but I will ball. Not just for me, the whole team involved. Not just for me, the whole team involved. I'm from the city all for one and one for all. No I in team, but I will ball. Not just for me, the whole team's involved. Not just for me, the whole team involved. All for one and one for all. No I in team, but I will ball.
The Sports Fix, the show that asks the question,
What you talking about, Lou? What you talking about, Lou? What you talking about? What you talking about? What you talking about, Lou? What you talking about? What you talking about, Lou? What you talking about? What you talking about, Lou?
we'll be right back.
Guys, want to take just a second as we head into this break and remind you about the official business printing source of the Sports Fix, our friends at Signs and Ship. Signs and Ship, I'm telling you, Chris and Pam, they've taken care of me since day one, and they can do the same for you. Whether you're a small business that's already been established and you're looking to grow to that next level and expand your business, or perhaps you've got an idea that you just know is going to be a great business and you need to figure out how to brand it and how to promote it and put it out there, Signs and Ship is the place for you. If you need a logo, they can create one for you. They have a fantastic graphic designer. Business cards, signs, banners, yard signs, mobile advertising, anything you can think of that you need to promote your business, they've got it at Signs and Ship. The best thing about them, too, is each of their locations, whether it's the home base here in Elyria, Ohio that I work with, or their spots in Virginia, Florida, and Pennsylvania, it's all local sourced. Very important to me because we all understand that small business is the lifeblood of the community. So check them out, signsandship.com, or call Chris and Pam today, 440-323-6060, the home office in Elyria, Ohio. Signs and Ship, quality printing at affordable prices.
The Sports Fix is on iHeartRadio. Download the free iHeart app today. Subscribe to the show and get your fix. No football? No problem at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted. From their awesome Wing Mondays to every single Cavaliers and Buckeye Hoops games in full HD, the excitement never stops. Every day of the week brings a different set of food and amazing drink specials. Fight fans, Harry Buffalo North Olmsted is the home for every UFC pay-per-view live on the big screens. And let's not forget their mouth-watering trademark, the Bison Burger. Nobody does bison like Harry Buffalo. The perfect combination of healthy and delicious. What are you waiting for? Get to Harry Buffalo, just outside Great Northern Mall today. Harry Buffalo. Join the herd.
Man, do I love card night. You ready, boys? You got a king?
Go, fish dad.
Oh, come on. This is WWE superstar Titus O'Neil. The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today. Learn more at 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Fantasy sports lovers, you put so much time, hard work, and effort into playing week to week that it quickly stops being a fantasy and starts getting real. Real time spent making real decisions, creating real victory.
I'm the greatest man in the world!
And when the smoke clears, you want to show off those victories with a real prize. I mean, a really real prize. Nobody does that like Fantasy Jocks. The crew over at Fantasy Jocks have beautiful, high-quality, and heavy-duty championship belts, rings, trophies, and so much more for all your fantasy sports needs.
The trophy's 12 feet high, and it is glorious!
Football, baseball, hoops, you name it, they have it. Plus, they have awesome draft kits and party supplies to make all your preseason activities the envy of everyone. If your league needs a ring, belt, or trophy, or you want to upgrade what you already have, there's literally only one place to go. If you're going to be a fantasy jock, do it right.
It's mine, the most magnificent belt ever created, and it's mine.
With America's fantasy sports superstore, fantasyjocks.com.
What's your fantasy?
to the Sports Fix.
Welcome back to the Sports Fix. That's right, we're getting over the mountain, rolling on here as we get going. Doug Plagens, voice of the Monsters and Gladiators, he's going to join us here momentarily. Welcome back in, you guys here. J-Rocc with you as we roll into hour number 1. We've got Dan Wismar coming up in hour 2, talking, well, probably a little bit earlier than that. We're never on time with anything. It's either early, late, who knows. But Dan's going to join us from Everybody Hates Cleveland. Don't worry, talking more Cavaliers hoops. We're going to talk a little Tribe and so much more there. You guys can keep talking to us no matter what we're talking about anytime, day or night. Facebook.com/TheSportsFix. Tweet with us at TheSportsFixCLE. Of course, you can always 24/7 hit us up on the hotline, 216-539-7535. Facebook.com/TheSportsFix. Tweet with us at TheSportsFixCLE. You can email us as well, TheSportsFix@AOL.com. Hey, got a couple of thumbs up here from some of you guys during the break. The Retro Artistry Wine and Gold Anthem. Hey, I tell you guys all the time, if you listen to our music selection from time to time, some of the Brown songs that we play over the course of the years, done by local artists, Winslow from Akron and a couple of other guys, so Brian Givens, a lot of guys. So if you're a local artist and you've got some Cleveland-based material, send it out to me, man. And if it's halfway decent, man, I'll put it on the air for you. I'm all about supporting Cleveland and fellow Clevelanders, so there you go. But they sent us that track. I listened to it and said, all right, I'll put this one on the air. Let me know what you guys thought. And as I said, I'll gladly play some good stuff. You got it. Hit us up with your Cleveland tracks, fellow artists out there. I'm going to hit the phone lines here. My man Doug Plagens is getting ready to join me. He's from the Monsters, from the Gladiators. My man Doug here with us. It's been a couple of weeks. Doug, how you doing this afternoon?
Doing great. How are you?
Hey, I'm fantastic. Doug, you take residence down there at the Q with all of those teams, and last night, what a raucous night. And I mean, just an unbelievably, I've been saying this, I don't know about you, but this playoff run went from just more expectations at the beginning to just growing with that fever of all for one with all the circumstances and everything that they've gone through. And last night, what a signature win for the Cavaliers here, man, so far in what's been an awesome playoff series.
Oh, it was great. And, considering they were down early and ended up coming back to win the game and just the way the series has gone against a good Chicago team after, they fell behind in the series, of course, the buzzer beater from Derrick Rose, then LeBron countered with the buzzer beater of his own the following game. So I think it's just something everybody needs to sit back and enjoy it.
Isn't it awesome? I mean, you're down there. You've got so much excitement. I mean, with the Cavaliers, with all the buzz and the changeover with the Monsters, with the Gladiator season underway. It's got to be I'm trying to think of the word. It's got to be one of those incredible work atmospheres down in the Quicken Loans Arena family, just with all of that stuff kind of synergistically coming together.
Oh, a ton of energy. And you look at it's almost like this, the buzz started to just ramp up last summer. I remember you and I talking about it with all the things that were going on downtown. And you can look back to, the run the Gladiators put together last year. And then, of course, the news that LeBron was going to come back to the Cavs. And then, the great season that the Cavs put together. And then, obviously, the news with the Monsters and the Blue Jackets recently. And, there's just been one thing after another, it seems like. And not just really since the start of this basketball season, but going all the way back to, last summer and maybe even last spring around this time when things just started to really move up, I guess, in a lot of different ways.
And I've been saying, I don't know if it's being an underdog or what, but it feels like the way this thing has gone down, it's such the Cleveland way. Initially, it just didn't. I don't know. It didn't feel right to have everything come together and have a big three and have all. You know what I mean? Be that team. It just didn't feel right for Cleveland. It totally does now because everything truly is being earned one step at a time, and I think it makes it more organic and more fun as this thing grows because mean, things keep happening, and you just have to roll with the punches, and it changes the way it felt, I think, at the beginning. I don't know if that makes sense.
Well, everything takes shape, and nothing is, no matter what you put together, you're not going to have the end result right off the beginning. Things need to come together. You have to have that chemistry, that bond that takes shape. And I think you can look at the Cavs season and the way things went in the second half. And the first half they were trying to find their way. Guys were getting on the same page, and you knew there was going to be that growing process. And I think now we're seeing exactly that, the end result of all the work that was put in and all the moves that were made over the course of the year to get the formula to where you want it.
I know you've been all over, so I don't know how much LeBron James you've seen over the years, but I say last night's game goes up with the Detroit game from, 2008, and those two are the signature LeBron James playoff games to me. That thing last night was definitely MVP worthy, the performance that he put on.
Yeah, it's one of those things when you have a superstar player, and we see it all across sports. You just want to enjoy what they provide while they're there and at the top of their game, and when they're in the big situations. And you can look across all sports, and of course, right now, LeBron James in a playoff run like this, you look back to guys like Derek Jeter during some of those Yankees World Series runs. And I'm not a Yankees fan, but he's one of those guys you just had to appreciate not only seeing him play the game, but seeing him play the game on the big stage. And there are a lot of other examples you can point to, but you have to enjoy those talents while they're on display.
Absolutely, man. And last night, just a sign of that. A lot of fun, man, and there's still a lot more to come, hopefully, coming down there. But things continue. I mean, the team's moving in and out. It's funny, too, watching the switchover, because very quickly, here comes the Gladiators coming back around. I want to switch us over a little bit, too, and talk about them. Gladiator season's been kind of a series of back and forth. Win a couple, lose a couple, win a couple here, and then they after that exciting victory 2 weeks ago, falling short last week to the Sharks 46-43. Talk to me a bit about that game. Tough one there.
Well, just the way the season's gone so far, this is still a very good football team and one of the best in the Arena Football League, in my opinion. And you knew that it's not easy to go 17-1 again. And but the lessons that the guys learned going 17-1 last season can definitely help them this year. And they've beaten some good teams this year. A big win against Orlando a couple of weeks ago. They've knocked off Tampa a couple of times this season. They've gotten tripped up in a couple of games against a very good Arizona team, against Philadelphia, who right now really looks like the team to beat in the conference and maybe the entire league. Just this past game against Jacksonville, fell 46-43, led at the half. Jacksonville had a big run during the late first half and then throughout the third quarter that really put them on top for good. Jacksonville had a bad record, but don't let that fool you. They're a very good football team with a lot of talent. They've got all arena players up and down their lineup, and they just haven't really put it all together yet. But you saw flashes in that game of what they could do if they can all get on the same page. Unfortunately, the Gladiators were on the wrong end of it. They did a good job late in the game, 22-7. They outscored Jacksonville in the fourth quarter and almost tied the thing up, but fell by a 46-43 score. Amari Jackson was really the biggest bright spot for the Gladiators. Had his third really big game in a row and had three touchdown catches. He led all receivers in the game with 135 yards. So he's a guy that definitely is going to be relied upon heavily as the season's moving ahead.
For sure. You talk about that late stretch. It was really the middle of the game. It was the third quarter that came back to bite the Gladiators at the end, and then that run at the end was just too little, too late to catch up on it there. And I'm with you there, too. I think that's a stronger team than the record shows as well. And the Gladiators now sit at 4-3 on the season, and now going to take their second look at the New Orleans Voodoo here. That was, week 2 that they met earlier in the season, and the Gladiators had a pretty resounding victory there.
Very early on. And they won. They put 70 up on New Orleans. Yeah. That was one of the games that was one of the trips that I did not make earlier in the year because I was still doing hockey at the time. But with the Gladiators, and I was just talking to the Gladiators coach Steve Tunn yesterday at practice. He wants to see the Gladiators really put the pressure on the opposition in a game like this, and try to have a game like they did in that second week against New Orleans, and where the Voodoo are in the standings. This is a division game, and you want to make sure you win your division games. They're a team that is below the Gladiators in the standings, and these are the games that you have to win. You have to beat the teams that you're supposed to beat, and you can't take them lightly. But at the same time, this is a game the Gladiators go into really as the favorite, and playing in a loud home building, they're going to want to jump on New Orleans early on, because if they get the Voodoo down in that game, I don't see the voodoo coming back.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially, as you said, put 70 on them the first time, 70-42 victory there. You get on a team like that early, and it could be all downhill for them from there. And, of course, what else going on with that? It's military ID night. Is there anything else, any other promotions with this game here coming up?
Military salute night. But as always, when you come to a Gladiators game, you got the $2 beers, $1 sodas. So that's always fun going into the summer. And it's just a good atmosphere and a great time when you come out to a Gladiators game. It's the last couple home games here, everybody's been having a great time as always, and the games are going to get bigger as the season goes on because, as I said, this Gladiators team is once again one of the best teams in the AFL, and looking ahead, they should be a team that's going to contend.
And let me ask you something. We talk about this with the Monsters and the fan base and the growth we've really seen just continue. And I think the Monsters are just such a shining example, and maybe the super positive end of what things can happen with a team in a market like that. But have you seen growth fan base wise? I mean, between have you seen the benefits of that run last season start to reap this season here? Has there been more awareness, more fan awareness? Have you noticed anything more social media engagement? Did that run last year kind of help grow the fan base for the Gladiators the way the Monsters have been able to do?
There's no question about it. With the Gladiators going 17-1 last year, going all the way to the Arena Bowl, let's not forget there were over 18,000 people in this building for the Arena Bowl last season, and even though the Gladiators fell short in that game, they there were a lot of people who really latched onto the Gladiators last season. And you're seeing the energy in the arena is just it's awesome, and I think the thing when you talk about the Gladiators around town, the perception now is when people, not only do people talk about the Gladiators, but hey, they're pretty good. Everybody knows the Gladiators are pretty good, and there's buzz around that, and they've got a good football team, and it shows, and now they're one of the teams to beat in the AFL. I think everybody knows that.
That's awesome. And I was just curious because I know you're kind of in the midst of that and you've got a good gauge of that. And, we talk about how sometimes those things don't necessarily stick. But that, in general, that ownership group has done such a good job with the Monsters. And I was curious if that was also applying itself out there. And I'm with you. This season continuing to roll. I mean, obviously, just about, a third of the way through the season, a little more than that. So still a lot more momentum to go. New Orleans Voodoo at the Q. It rhymes there. Friday, 7 p.m. and Doug Plagens will be calling all the action on the radio as well, and look forward to talking to you next week about that. I wanted to ask you a little bit too. We mentioned the Monsters there as the transition continues to the new look Lake Erie Monsters. I noticed, I think it was last week or so, the Plain Dealer had a nice little piece focusing on some of the players that fans will be able to see and bringing them to the attention for some people, Anton Forsberg and Sonny Milano and some of them. And talk to me a little bit about some of those faces that Monsters fans are going to see in a few months.
Well, the Blue Jackets have had a lot of good draft positions in recent years. They've also accumulated draft picks, which is something that teams in transition can do to really rebuild quickly. And they've done a great job drafting. Just the early indication, just seeing how some of these guys have turned out in junior and things like that, and some of the names that have been tossed around a little bit. You mentioned Sonny Milano. He's kind of become a YouTube sensation in a way. He's got some videos, some stick handling videos on YouTube. If you Google his name, they'll show up. They're incredible. They're absolutely unbelievable. Some of the tricks that he can do with a stick and a puck. But there's his name. You mentioned Anton Forsberg, who had a great year in net for Springfield last year. Another name that's been tossed around is and again, these are possibilities of guys who could wind up in a Monsters jersey at some point. A young guy from Denmark named Oliver Bjorkstrand, who just finished up his last season in the Western Hockey League. That's Major Junior, 63 goals in the regular season. So, I mean, doesn't matter what league you're playing in, you're scoring 63 goals. That's not joking around. So, he's the guy who comes in with a lot of talent and a lot surrounding him. So there's definitely some good players who could find themselves in Monsters jerseys at some point, and the coaching staff was all in town a couple of weeks ago. Had a chance to meet Jared Bednar and his staff, and they all seem like great people.
Sounds awesome, man. I had to ask you a little bit about that. I saw that, and I actually reposted that out there for some people, and I wanted to get that in. Doug, I'll tell you, man, it never stops, brother. And next thing you know, by the time the Gladiators runs over, you'll have 2 weeks off. You'll go make your baseball trip, and then it'll be Monsters time again.
The baseball trip this season is actually over the 4th of July weekend there, because the AFL has a league-wide bye week during 4th of July. So the baseball trip's actually June 30th to July 6th this year.
There, because you can't take it. Hey, man, they make another run, and you might not have time for it. You know, you end up running one right into the other. Yeah, we saw that already before, so that's cool. Doug, I'll tell you, staying busy, a lot going on. Gladiators this week, and, of course, continuing to watch this Cavaliers run as well, man. Doug, thank you so much for joining us, and I look forward to catching up with you next week.
Thanks very much for having me.
You got it. My man, Doug Plagens. He's the voice of the Cleveland Gladiators, the voice of the Lake Erie Monsters, and he stops in and talks about both of those here with us on the Sports Fix. Let's take a break. Let's get you guys some news, and let's get Dan Wismar in on the conversation, guys. We'll keep it right down there on the corner of Carnegie and Ontario, and, 500 feet to the north of that as well. We'll start there, talking some Cavs and some Bulls, and we'll hit the Tribe as well with Dan Wismar from the Cleveland Fan and Everybody Hates Cleveland. Coming up next, after the news, here on the Sports Fix.
Say, hey, hey, hey. What you got to say?
And now, a very special announcement from the Sports Fix.
Black bears weigh between 200 and 500 pounds. Brown bears weigh between 300 and over 1,000 pounds. Black bears run away from you. Brown bears run at you. When attacked by a bear, simply lie still on the ground and cover your face and head with your hands. When the bear is finished batting you around and mauling you, contact the U.S. Forest Service.
And that was a message from the Sports Fix.
Hey, this is Scott Fujita, and you're listening to the Sports Fix.
Sports Fix listeners, do you tweet? So do we. So tweet with us 24/7 at the Sports Fix CLE.
Today on Save on Taxes, we ask 100 people what costs less than filing your taxes with IRS Free File.
A car seat. Oh, a pair of shoes.
The correct answer is nothing. When you use Free File, you get brand name software, tax prep, e-filing, and help with the new healthcare provisions, all for free.
So, did we win anything?
Everybody wins. freefile.irs.gov. It's fast, it's safe, it's free.
Business owners and professionals, do you want to take your business, your product, your team, your event to the next level? You want to advertise right here with the Sports Fix. Our listeners are among the most loyal listeners, terrestrial or internet. The Sports Fix universe is not only the radio show, but tens of thousands of fans on Facebook and Twitter. Email me, Jerry Myers, thesportsfix@AOL.com. That's thesportsfix@AOL.com. And let me help you swing for the fences and hit it out of the park right here on the Sports Fix.
Whether it's an oil change or a new set of tires, Quick Lane at Valley Ford Truck has you covered for your car care needs. They're your neighborhood quick service experts. They also offer a low price tire guarantee. Choose from 13 brands, and if you find the same tires at a lower price within 30 days, Quick Lane at Valley Ford will refund the difference. 5715 Canal Road, right under the 480 bridge in Valley View. Come see why life is better in the Quick Lane. quicklane.com/Valley Ford Truck.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Signs and Ship, the official printing source of the Sports Fix. Locations in Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and Florida. Find out more at signsandship.com.
News break.
I'm Christine Lisi. Right now, Wizards All-Star point guard John Wall questionable for Game 5 against the Hawks tonight. He's missed the last 3 games with 5 non-displaced fractures in his left wrist and hand. That series is tied up at 2 games apiece. Warriors and Grizzlies also meet up tonight with their series knotted up 2-2. Memphis' Tony Allen, sore left hamstring, questionable. Pelican star forward Anthony Davis was not told about the firing of coach Monty Williams until the decision had already been made, according to the team. Stanley Cup playoffs, Rangers welcome the Capitals in Game 7 tonight. New York's posted 5 consecutive Game 7 wins since being eliminated by Washington back in 2009. The winner advances to face the Lightning in the East Final. Tom Brady's got a Pro Football Hall of Famer in his corner. Paul Hunter told USA Today he does not believe the Patriots quarterback deserves to be branded a cheater, assuming the claims of Brady and agent Don Yee are accurate, and Brady is innocent of the Wells Report findings, which link him to a conspiracy to deflate footballs. Brady has until tomorrow to file the appeal of his 4-game suspension.
Each and every day, enjoy the Simple 6 menu at Subway. An entire made-for-you meal featuring one of 6 6-inch sandwiches like the Italian BMT or Black Forest ham, with any bag of chips and a 21-ounce drink, all for only $6. Subway. Eat fresh.
Now, back to the Sports Fix.
This is how we do it.
Welcome back to the Sports Fix Live, indeed, how we do it. J-Rocc with you guys here. See, I knew we would be before hour 2, and that's a good thing, too. I actually do have to, it has to be a shorter episode of the show today. I completely forgot that I have my follow-up dentist appointment part 2. Of course, I had the what is the term they use? Extraction. But I should be good to go here. Just a little deal. So it works out well. Dan Wismar is going to join us. We've got plenty of Sports Fix still to come, just about halfway through the show. We're going to talk some Cavs here in just a minute. Indians as well. Tell you what, in the break you heard about that, talking about Monty Williams fired by the Pelicans. I saw the I don't want to say weirdest stat, but I saw something that just speaks to franchises. I think that can't figure out why, hey, we see this all the time with teams like the Browns, can't get out of their own way and build their own positive momentum. The last 4 times a coach has taken, I think it's 4 coaches in a row, but I don't want to misquote it, but 4 coaches in a row that have taken the Pelicans to the playoffs have all been fired after that run. And to me, that's kind of short-sighted. I mean, seriously, that's, Monty Williams took him once and he survived after that one, but the second time he was fired. And I'm trying to remember who the others were. I mean, obviously, Byron was one. You had Paul Silas, and I cannot remember the 4th, but the last 4 of them all had a playoff run and then were fired. And to me, that kind of smacks of a little bit of impatience where the run didn't go as far as you thought it would, so here we bring in somebody else and we start all over again, And hey, Monty Williams did a good job of keeping things together when that team tore everything apart. Remember, they got rid of Chris Paul and all of that and had to rebuild, and I thought the Pelicans are a good team. I thought they gave a good fight to Golden State, and they struck me as a team that's just on the beginning of their run. I don't know, but hey, I've seen some guys, bloggers and media guys down there in the area that know much more than I do that say they think they made the right move. So who knows? What do I know? But anyways, my thought was just, you got 4 coaches in a row that got fired after a playoff run, and I'm like, man, maybe if you leave one of them the year after that, they can have multiple playoff runs. But whatever. Let's talk about some Cavs hoops with Dan Wismar. You guys can keep talking to us. Facebook and Twitter. Facebook.com/TheSportsFix. Tweet with us at TheSportsFixCLE. Dan Wismar's on the phones. Dan, my man, from EverybodyHatesCleveland.com. Dan, how you doing?
Doing great, Jerry. How about yourself?
I'm fantastic, man, especially after watching an absolutely fantastic basketball game last night, and I'm ready to dive right back into that. But how was that Game 5 last night?
Well, obviously it started out a little shaky, but LeBron, just essentially took charge, as LeBron can do, and 10 of 12 in the first half, 24 points sort of tells the story. Once they, grabbed the momentum at the end of the first quarter, it really was, in hand, although it's, as LeBron, and LeBron is great at sort of sobering people up after the game, not only with some self-criticism, which he's very candid about, but also about talking about you can't give up 30 points in the fourth quarter to these guys. It's just unacceptable. You can't let it happen, even though you get the win. It's distressing to see, let a 17-point lead get away all the way down to 2, and 2 plus the ball. As you said earlier, they had the chance to tie it up, but in the end, LeBron just asserted himself, and Kyrie obviously was looking a little bit healthier. So, you do have to love it. I wanted to comment, though, and I didn't hear a lot of I didn't hear the first 10 minutes of your show today. You may have talked more about the Taj Gibson situation and the incident with Delhi, but talking to some people this morning, it seems to me that if Taj Gibson's going to get suspended for what happened, it shouldn't be for the altercation that happened on the floor. It should be for the activities, the 10 seconds preceding that. You know what I'm saying, Jerry? When Gibson, first of all, clubs Delhi in the back of the head, and then 2 seconds later shoves him from behind to the floor.
Oh, absolutely. I brought that up.
Then the altercation happened with the leg between his legs. Now, and just if it's me, and I've just been treated, and obviously LeBron pointed out after the game, a few minutes earlier, he had shoved Delhi again and cuffed him upside the head about a minute before that, or the previous time down the court. Then this time down the court, he clubs him with an elbow in the back of the head, then shoves him to the floor. Now Delhi's lying on the floor, and he feels Gibson's leg between his legs. If I'm a man, and I've been treated like that by Taj Gibson up to that point, I'm going to lock my legs together, too, just to protect my manhood, man. I'm not going to sit there with my legs apart and let him just come at my groin, which is probably the next thing Delhi anticipated might happen. I'm going to, Delhi might have precipitated the thing by locking Gibson's ankle between his legs and precipitating it, and I wouldn't suspend Gibson for trying to free his leg from between Delhi's legs, but I also don't blame Delhi for locking up his ankle like that just to protect himself.
No, I hear you on that. I mean, there was several instances before that, and I'm with you. I'm glad you brought that up because there was the play before, and then he hit him seconds before that, and then shoved him down there at the bottom. And to me, not only that, it would also be the post-play stuff. If you're going to suspend him, it's everything but just that, because he takes the swipe at Delhi when he kicks at him. Then he takes a full blatant swing at J.R. Smith. I mean, to me, that was close to an attempted punch. You know what I mean? You can interpret it however you want, but he took a swing at J.R. Smith, and then he raised the volatility of the situation for the next several moments to where that thing could have got ugly. Plus, who knows? And I didn't notice any, I don't know, because I don't have that kind of video. I don't know if people came up off the bench to where the NBA may, I don't know, but if they see on video that anybody got off the bench on either team at any point, those guys get suspended for a game. So, I mean,
that's automatic. In fact,
absolutely automatic.
LeBron was on the bench at the time, and then thankfully he didn't join the fray. But
right, but I mean,
you're right. That's an automatic suspension for leaving the bench. But I just wanted to make the point that whatever Gibson did to sort of try to free his leg from between Delhi's legs, and Delhi clearly locked them together. But like I said, that's a self-preservation move by Delhi. You're standing there. I got my legs apart, and you've got your leg between mine. I'm sorry. I'm locking my legs together to keep you from coming up towards my groin, my manhood, because that's what I'm protecting at that point as I'm laying on the floor.
I hear you, and I'll tell you what, here's something else to keep in mind. If this series is to go 7 games, if I'm the Cavaliers, I am, under my breath, I'm calling Gibson every name possible in Game 6 because he's got 3 flagrant foul points right now. If he gets a 4th, it's an automatic 1-game suspension. So he's at the brink of getting himself suspended to where if he's going to, to me, when a guy's got a short fuse, it's different. We're not talking about taking an injury, taking advantage of something like that. To me, when a guy's a hothead, those are the kind of things I have no problem taking advantage of, man. If you can't control your temper, hey, man, that's to your team's detriment, and that's why teams need to think twice about having you on their team, And I would most definitely, if I'm the Cavaliers, I'd keep at him. Everything within the rules that I can do. And Delhi drives guys nuts because that's what he does. He is relentless. He drives guys crazy. He drives guys bigger than him, more athletic than him, stronger than him crazy because he comes at you like a gnat, like a bulldog. Like he just just doesn't stop, and it frustrates guys, as you can see, to where they're taking cheap shots at him and they're trying to bully him around, and he just keeps coming back. I love Deli, man. I love the fight in that kid for sure. From the day one that he's been on the Cavs, man, I fought people last year over Mike Brown and Deli. I love that kid, man, and to me, he's showing why. You need that kind of fight, man.
Well, yeah, you're right. He's a pest, and that's why he drives other players crazy. And that's great. And in fact, it wasn't until I was on Twitter this morning and I started seeing some Vine clips of some of the previous plays that Gibson had made on Deli in the game. And
mauling him.
What's remarkable to me, though, Jerry, is how how Marv Albert and these guys, the broadcasters, don't make any mention of what happens in that 10 seconds preceding that altercation. They're talking about, well, Deli locked his leg. Well, yeah, he did. And did you see him get shoved to the ground from behind? Did you see him get, the elbow in the back of the head just 10 seconds before that? Did you see the things that led up to that? To me, they just glossed over all that, didn't even mention it as if it wasn't even pertinent. So, and I don't want to make more of a deal out of it than it is, but I just wanted to make that point that, the self-preservation point on Deli's part, and I, to be honest with you, they were talking about the swing that Gibson took, and I actually never really saw that. Even when they replayed it, I don't know, I just was looking at the wrong place or something, didn't catch him taking a swing at JR. I did not see that, and I thought JR, was sort of playing the role of not peacemaker. That probably goes against his grain, but at least he was there to sort of protect his guy.
I was afraid that
stand up for Deli. Same with Tristan.
Well, he's a hothead too. When Gibson swung at him, he was right in his face. I was afraid, oh man, that's going to set J.R. Smith off, and they always see the second guy anyway, and boom, then next thing you know, that's going to end up costing us in the back end of it. So he did a good job of holding his cool, because he was right there to stick up for Deli. And then when Gibson swung at him, and I said, oh man, this is going to get ugly quick. Luckily, they were able to get that thing, and the scene looked even more raucous because you had some police officers getting in the middle of it. So you got like armed officers helping break it up. I'm like, man, this looks like it should be on Monday Night Raw here, man. They're breaking up the scrum here at the end of this thing. But anyways,
and so if they do get a suspension of Gibson, I hope that they clarify and specify that it's because of the swing he took, not because of the the kick to kind of free his foot from between Deli's legs.
You know what else too? Talking about Deli real quick, and I don't know, just pay attention to this when it plays, but I've seemed to notice, it's not like Deli scores 1,000,000 points a game or whatever, but man, so you notice when he does, every time he gets into a scrum with guys or gets his dander up, I'm telling you, he's good for hitting a big shot relatively soon after. He strikes me as one of those guys who, when he gets his blood pumping, just is able to hit a big shot. Maybe he won't hit you 5 in a row, but man, when he gets fired up, he nails them daggers. He did it again last night, man, and I'm like, boy, right after they mess with him, here comes Deli, boom, big 3-pointer. Like, yeah, mess with little Deli here if you want, and I'll just shoot these all day long. But he's got that. Some guys have that where when they get riled up, they just nail a shot, and Deli seems to have that.
Yeah, that's true. And like you said, the Bulls player that drained the 51-footer kind of took the wind out of Deli's three, took the edge off of it. But that was a big shot. Put the Cavs up about a dozen, I think, right in the last seconds of the third. But yeah, and by the way, don't know if you saw it. They're going back to Game 4. The officiating report comes out afterwards, and they have, they note every call in the last 2 minutes, and they say it was either a correct call, an incorrect call, a correct non-call, or an incorrect non-call. They have those 4 categories of every little incident that happens in the last 2 minutes of the game. Okay. And so they went through, and on the official, I follow NBA Official on Twitter. I don't know if you do that, but they have a Twitter feed, and they'll put out a link to their post-game report, which comes out a few hours after the game.
Oh, I do follow that. Yeah.
Yeah, and they had the call, the one that we talked about Monday, the one that was where Joakim Noah comes down the lane and rams into LeBron as he's trying to take the last second shot with 2 seconds to go.
1 second left.
And it's a non-call. That was officially, by the NBA officials, ruled an incorrect non-call. In other words,
there you go. So at least
the officials made a mistake. So at least the officials of the NBA stepped up and said, "Yeah, that was a foul, all right, and it was an incorrect. It was incorrect to call it a non-call." So I just wanted to bring that up. We talked about it, and it gets very little publicity after the fact when the NBA sort of grades themselves and grades their own officials on how they did. But I wanted to make sure and remind you or tell you that was officially ruled a mistake by the NBA officials for not calling a foul on Joakim Noah. Instead of LeBron hitting an impossible jumper from the corner, he should have stepped to the line with 1.5 and drained a couple free throws and won the game that way.
There you go. See, guys, at least now there's proof that we're not just happy homers complaining about the non-call against LeBron. The NBA has admitted that there was obviously a missed call there, and then we wouldn't have needed all the ruckus at the end. Nobody would have known who was inbound in the ball because LeBron would have just took some free throws. So thank you very much, NBA. You not only made it harder than it had to be, but you caused a whole 48 hours of controversy that we could have done without either. But I don't care,
they also,
man.
by the way, in that same report, they took note of the fact that Blatt tried to call a timeout, but none of the three officials saw him.
Well, because it's obvious.
They don't have any kind of a ruling on that. But, incorrect.
Well, they know they missed it because that wasn't.
Take note of it.
I don't know if you saw it. I'm sure you've seen the video of it, but that wasn't nobody stopped David Blatt from calling timeout. They just got him off the court before anybody saw him because he called timeout 3 times. I watched it. I watched the replay of it. He hit timeout with his hands 3 times walking on the court to start the timeout, and Tyronn Lue just runs out and grabs him and pulls him back on, but nobody was looking at him. He definitely didn't get stopped from calling timeout. He called it, so they saved him there for sure, and that was a missed call as well because that would have been the end of the day for the Cavaliers. That would have been one of those silly mistakes. By the way, I had got a kick last night out of listening to did you guys hear Chris Webber when it was brought up? And he said first he said nothing. The first time they started talking about it, he was just silent man in the conversation, and we're noticing it. We go, hey, you notice Chris Webber doesn't have anything to say about that timeout. Then they said David Blatt admitted that he got saved by Tyronn Lue, and Chris Webber goes, boy, all I'm thinking is I wish I had Tyronn Lue on my team 20 years ago, man. And I just busted up laughing because you knew
I did not catch that. I did not catch that, but that's hilarious.
You knew he had to acknowledge it because he was just sitting there quiet while they're talking about it. And we're like, so how does Chris Webber just sit here in the middle of this conversation about a guy taking a timeout when that's what he's most notorious for in his career? And he finally knew it was all sheepish. He's like, yeah, I just wish I had Tyronn Lue on my team 20 years ago. That's for sure. And they kind of broke the, but you could feel it, and it was funny. I lost it on that one, but anyways.
Well,
man,
the thing was
too,
and
go ahead.
Like you say, credit the Bulls for sucking it up and coming back and making a game of it, and they surely did. I read after the game, and I hadn't realized it, that Derrick Rose was 0 for his last 9 from the field.
Yes.
You're not going to be able to count on that on any given night. And although I guess you'd have to say that Dunleavy made up for that by just catching fire and just shredding the Cavs down the stretch and really all game long. It had been since game 1 that the Dunleavy had really gotten hot, and boy, he's just deadly when he gets on a roll, and just got to make sure you pay attention to him in game 6 or coming up, and make sure he doesn't make somebody else beat you besides that guy.
Absolutely. And I got to tell you, too, I think part of it, you got to credit the defense. I mean, you could see Huuump and Kyrie were playing a little bit stronger, a little more bounce in the second half, whether it was adrenaline kicking in or what, because Rose was strong early, as you said, and then faded a bit down the stretch. Here's an interesting stat that it just came across here. It's pretty telling here for the Cavaliers as they head into Game 6. LeBron in his career 7-2 in closeout games on the road as a Cavalier over his career. 7-0 when the Cavs were the higher seed, which is, of course, what they are in this tournament there. So there you go, man, if you're looking for something. And I'll tell you what, looking ahead, I want to talk more about last night's game, but looking ahead, it's going to be a dogfight in Chicago. I mean, look at the toll that was taken trying to get out of Boston in Game 4, and that was a totally different scenario and a totally different team. Look at how physical this series has gotten with these two teams. Regardless if we think Chicago is a physical team or not, these two teams are going at each other. The potential is there for battle of attrition, man. It may be what bodies are left standing at the end of Game 6, but boy, it's going to be a dogfight in Game 6, brother.
You're right, and I think what we've seen, not even more so than Kelly Olynyk, the famous thug of Boston, is that this Bulls team is not only a very good defensive team and a very feisty, team, but they are hot-headed. Certainly, Joakim Noah is as mouthy a guy as you're ever going to see, and just in terms of, getting emotional and getting physical. And we've already seen these teams almost come to blows several times. Yeah. And like you say, when you're down 3-2 and you're on your home floor and it's desperation time, certainly the potential is there for things to get ugly. I hope that doesn't happen, and I hope that Cavs can string it together. I just look at, before the series started, people were saying, you got to believe the Cavs because LeBron always wins a game on the road, and if LeBron wins a game on the road, that means the Bulls are going to have to win 2 in Cleveland in order to win the series. That's the way it's playing out.
Yep.
Still don't think the Bulls can win 2 in Cleveland. I hope we don't have to find out. But certainly, like you say, they're going to give it all. And if they get desperate near the end, there's going to be some ugliness. You can almost write it down in advance and just anticipate that it's going to happen. And you just hope that, the good guys are the ones that can keep their cool and that can play through it and not get caught up in it. So, but it's very easy to see that a desperate Bulls team with their personality being what it is, the potential is there to start some of that drawing, that pushing, that shoving, the dirty fouls and the taking shots and the no layups kind of approach, where they're actually out to try to injure somebody.
Speaking of ugly,
the other thing too, I was just going to
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you go.
I was just going to say just the whole idea of the injury situation for the Cavs. I mean, you got to feel better after Game 6 after Game 5 than you did after Game 4, just in terms of the physical condition of the team. Kyrie and Shumpert mainly, that those guys stepped it up. They looked like they had a little bit more spring in their step, as you said. And it didn't appear, at least, that either one of them re-aggravated anything, during that game. So, give them another 48 hours, and maybe it's, as good at the start of Game 6 as it was at the start of Game 5, and maybe even a little bit better in terms of their physical condition. I'm not quite as, pessimistic or depressed about the physical state of the team because they looked like they bounced back a little bit in that game last night, and it looked like they ended the game no worse off than they started it. So you got to look at that as a positive.
You're listening to the Sports Fix. J-Rocc, Dan Wismar, talking some Cavs and Bulls. And speaking of ugly, I've got to kind of interrupt this conversation. And here's a story that the Cavaliers would sure wish that we weren't talking about here today. I don't know if you've heard this, and for those of you out there listening, maybe not, but a story beginning to break that this morning, Kendrick Perkins involved in an altercation with his wife on the side of the road. Westlake police were called on the freeway here when a man and woman were reported by passersby fighting on the side of the road. When officers reported to the scene, this is according to ESPN here, Perkins and his wife were found by the SUV. According to the police report, people reported a sight of a woman hitting a man as he's trying to get out of a car, and it's parked on the side of the road. The woman was seen trying to pull him back as he was trying to walk away. Perkins, of course, has got a couple of different things in his past there. But, with all the sensitivity, and rightfully so, about domestic violence, and boy, does this really just not look good with the whole thing that went on last week with the bad taste video. But, here's a potential black eye that the Cavaliers need nothing to do with when they're in the middle of this. It's all hands on deck. But this beginning to break here out of Westlake, a little bit of a situation with Kendrick Perkins.
Well, based on that, and I had heard that just before I called in. I saw something on Twitter about it. But from what you just described, doesn't. I mean, it did not say Kendrick Perkins was pushing or shoving her. It does not say he was restraining her. It doesn't sound, from that initial report at least, like there's anything that Kendrick Perkins did wrong in terms of violence against his wife. And so obviously you hope that that's the way that report stays. But if she's trying to stop him from getting out of the car, trying to stop him from walking away, that's not a report of, male on female violence.
And they both have actually.
Like I said, you hope that nothing more. There's nothing more to it.
Absolutely. They both have various instances of over-aggressive activities in their past, so who knows. But, again, not the kind of thing that you even want your focus on. Hopefully it's something that can very quickly be put aside because, hey, say what you will, man. Kendrick Perkins as well. He's not statistically – by the way, some of the shots that he missed last night, I had to laugh. I said, man, we were joking. We said, listen, man, I'm out here for 6 fouls. I'm out here to run screens, man. I get rebounds. You guys are asking me to shoot the ball and all of that, man, because there were a couple that looked like he forgot how to shoot the jump hook, man. I think one of them may have missed the entire rim completely. He got his own rebound and missed it again. So he's out there for 6 fouls. He's out there to run screens. He's out there to get rebounds. He's not out there to make shots.
Yeah, that's right, Perk. Remember what your role is as a role player.
I just laughed at a couple of those misses. I said, those are going to be vined here tomorrow, assuming the Cavaliers win the game and it's a positive thing, or if they lose the game and it's a negative thing. You'll end up seeing the vine of a couple of those because they were some ugly misses. But it really, everybody has, there was a couple of times fighting for boards down there with Perkins. And as you mentioned, you got the big guys that are all coming in, whether it's Delly, Thompson, Shumpert. It really has been a little bit of everybody stepping up, which is what you've got to do, especially with the way things have been. Tristan Thompson, what do you have? 12 and 10 again last night. Tristan Thompson is down there just in a battle on every possession. I'm telling you guys, if you want to realize just how physical the game is, stop watching the game and just watch those rebound battles, and you realize that every single time, offense and defense, there's 3 or 4 guys going down there, and one of them is always Tristan Thompson. He never stops fighting. The cardio, the conditioning, the battling down there that it takes, it's not just the ones that you notice. It's on every single play, and he's got 2 and 3 guys boxing him out, elbowing him in the side, elbowing him in the back. Man, it's nuts, and he's still fighting for all those rebounds.
Yeah, you're right. And one thing that if you're watching closely and you're watching those battles, you see that not only does he get a bucket load of offensive boards, but when he doesn't, he oftentimes is picking up loose ball fouls on the other team. Any time that the offensive team is getting loose ball fouls fighting for the rebound, it's usually because they're doing something illegal to keep Tristan Thompson from getting that rebound.
Oh, yeah.
So many times there have been in this series and in the Celtics series, he was, doing his thing and doing it to position himself, and he's got guys throw him out of the way, hooking his elbow, doing all kinds of things to hold him down and keep him from getting the board. And the offensive team is getting all kinds of loose ball fouls down there in their attempts to keep him from getting those boards.
I'll tell you what, as you say that, hey, somebody from the Cavaliers must be listening to the show, because literally as we're saying this, I get an email from the Cavs that say, we're aware of a police report concerning a dispute between Kendrick Perkins and his wife this morning. There were no arrests made by the police, no accusations of wrongdoing. We understand Kendrick has cooperated fully in their review of the situation with authorities. We respect the Westlake authorities' process and no need to comment further at this time. So as you said, hopefully it's nothing to see here, move along, and if it was anybody that wasn't a basketball player, it wouldn't be a big deal. That's what I'm hoping, that it's one of those kind of things, but
yeah,
maybe they
were
listening. They said, we're talking about it. We got to get the statement out there. People are talking now.
Yeah, who hasn't had an argument with their wife in the car? I don't know.
I hear you, anyway, brother. I hear you.
Back to Thompson, though. One thing for sure is he's making a bucket load of money in these playoffs.
You know it.
He did the right thing for the Tristan Thompson family and his successors by holding out and not signing that offer, because whether it's with the Cavs or with somebody else, he's going to be a very wealthy man after this year is over, and when he gets a chance to get his agent involved and start negotiating a new deal. And I would imagine, and I I don't know this. I'm not a salary cap expert or anything like that, but you got to believe that next year it's either going to be Kevin Love or Tristan Thompson on the Cavs, but not both. Wouldn't you say?
Man, I've been thinking, and obviously they can sign both because they can sign their own free agents and go as crazy as they want as far as that goes. But they're guaranteeing themselves a future of only being able to sign minimum contract guys because they're already over the salary cap, I think, when you just look at a couple of guys, let alone the rest of the roster. That's the part where I'm with you. I was just talking, matter of fact, a week or two ago with somebody, and I said, man, how do you pay Kevin Love money? And now Tristan Thompson's going to want, maybe it's not Kevin Love money, but it's pretty close. It's up there. It's a lot more than Tristan Thompson money used to be. So, man, you got the more expensive Andy contract, even though it's not huge. He's got money. There's money that this team has got tied up, and that's a great way to think about it. And I know they can find a way to sign both, but boy, doesn't that hamstring your franchise at some point, man. Even though you have a core now locked up of Tristan, Kyrie, Kevin Love, and LeBron James, can you fill out a roster around them with rookie contract and minimum contract guys? Because that's where you're going to be at.
It seems like it, and you brought up the Varejao situation. It seems like maybe this signals the end of the Varejao years in Cleveland too. If you do sign them both, maybe Andy gets spun off somewhere, and certainly his value would have to be minimal coming off an Achilles injury. But I can't see there being room for all three certainly on this roster. All three, basic fours, power forwards, and all in that expensive double-digit millions category. Not sure what Andy's salary is, but it'd be hard to envision, at the very least, all three of them there.
I think Andy's extension, I can look it up, but I think it's going to be around $9 million. I'm not positive. But
I thought it was close to double-digit millions.
Maybe 10. You're right. It may be 10. It's somewhere in that area. And then also, where do you find the money to pay your J.R. Smiths and your Shumperts and the guys that are the key to this whole thing staying together? You know what I mean? There's a lot there, man. Mozgov, I mean, we talk about how that unlocked everything. Well, you got to find the money to keep him here around too, because you're going to need that big man in the middle. We've seen Tristan is your 4, not your 5. I mean, you know what I mean? So that's a great question. And then that also assumes the fact that Kevin Love stays here, because he's got to make that decision too. And that's part of where, and this is just me, and I know if it was me, you could say, well, J-Rocc, you'd want to make every penny too, and I agree, but that's where LeBron wants max contract, Kevin Love wants max contract, Kyrie wants max contract. That's great. Tristan wants big money. There has to be, just like, say what you want about the Spurs. They find ways to renegotiate those contracts to free up money. These players have to find a way. They don't have to, but if they want to win, you would think there has to be a way for these contracts to be structured so that the Cavs can leave themselves some room. LeBron doesn't want what happened in Miami to happen here again, where they end up, pigeonholed into no ability to improve the roster.
Yeah, that's right. You can sign all your core players to max deals and then hope they don't get hurt, because what the price you pay is cap flexibility and the ability to sign other role players that may come available or whatever. But the other question too is, Love has said all the right things up to this point about, I'm a Cleveland Cavalier, want to be here, don't see myself being anywhere else, but everybody knows he's sitting there with that, that $16.9 million option, his option to stay or go. And, the question now sort of becomes, if the Cavs can win a title without him, does that lessen the chance that he stays? I think it certainly does. Right now, if they don't win, people are going to say, well, they didn't win because Love got hurt, and maybe that gives Love an incentive to stay, come back, try to win it next year. But if they win it without him, maybe all bets are off, and I can get a ring, and I can go back home to the West Coast or whatever I want to do. And certainly the bidding will be furious on him.
You know what though? You just brought up another thing, Dan.
About how I feel about it.
You brought up another wrinkle. if the Cavaliers project out here, if the Cavaliers were to win it without Kevin Love, does that change, not necessarily that you just say we don't need you, but it changes the leveraging position, because all of a sudden now he has to take maybe he has to come for less money, because if you want to be here, that's great, but we've got to make this all fit financially. We've already shown that we can do it without, but you know what we're doing? We're messing up here, Dan. We're having next year's conversation in the middle of a playoff run, man. We shouldn't be doing this. We should not be doing this right
true.
now.
And I'm sure that Kevin Love figures he's got two options, not three. In other words, his two options are play in Cleveland for $16.9 million, or play somewhere else for more than that.
Yeah.
I don't think playing in Cleveland for less than that is probably one of the things that's high on his agenda.
But
who knows? We'll find out. But you're right. We got the cart way before the horse, and we've got to win Game 6 before we do much else.
That's it, man. We got Game 6 coming up, and I cannot wait. That's gonna be a dogfight in Chicago, man. I cannot wait. Hey, let's while I got you here, let's shift gears a little bit and let's talk about the Tribe, the Indians. I mean, seriously, we can sit here and take water off the boat all we want, but that's all that we're doing at this point in time. Again, it's simple. As you said, the second longest winning streak of the season continues to be won because they can't win 2 in a row. Yesterday had an opportunity. St. Louis came in with a starting pitcher that you've been able, he's been struggling a little bit. All the reasons we talked about, offense was starting to look good, and nothing happening. I mean, even when you fall behind 4-0, you get yourself back in the game. Hey, all right, the Indians have a chance to get back in this thing. The bullpen lets you down again, and that's it. Ball game over, 8-3, and the Tribe is now looking at trying to break a losing streak here against a hot team.
Right, Jerry. You're bailing. It's a good metaphor. You're bailing water out of the rowboat, fighting uphill against the wind, kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's been brutal. I got to admit, I was paying attention to the Cavs last night. I was just kind of barely tracking the Tribe on my phone. I had some people in from out of town, and things were busy. So I got to say, I didn't watch much at all of the Tribe game last night, but I was following it, as I always do, to know what the score is and the play-by-play. But after the game, people are talking about the one guy on the team that appears to be giving a damn, Jason Kipnis, who continues to rip the ball, hitting 440-something for May, 488 or something, the number I think I saw for the batting average in May. Diving for balls when you're down 5 runs, playing hard, giving it his all, and people after the game, he's almost conspicuous by being the one guy playing that way, because he hasn't been able so far to drag everybody else into that dirtbag mode that Kipnis all seems to play in. So after the game, that's the reaction that I was seeing from the people that I read and the people I'm following on Twitter, and that why can't everybody else play as hard as Jason Kipnis does? Basically, the lament I was hearing all evening.
I'm telling you. I mean, I'm seeing that too. I mean, we talk about we follow similar people. We see a lot of the same, and I see that same. Just again, it goes back to it's just not coming together, man. And I agree. It's early guy. I get you. We're 31 games into this thing. Although to me, I got to be honest, I've always pointed. I'm between 40 and 50 games. I'm about a June 1st guy. And, man, we're 2.5 weeks from June 1st here. So, at that point, I can't say it's early anymore. And it's not like Yan Gomes isn't coming around. Matter of fact, he'll probably be rehabbing in the next day or two here as he's really starting to ramp up his rehab. But that's great. But it's way more than just another bat in the lineup, than just the pitcher. Although I've said I think he'll help the pitching staff a little bit, but it's more than just Yan Gomes not being there. I mean, you get good starting pitching, your bullpen blows up. You get good bullpen pitching, it doesn't matter because they're bailing out a starting pitcher that had trouble, or so on and so forth. And again, it's one hole after another. I feel like it's in the cartoon where you're plugging holes, and next thing you know, you're running out of fingers and toes to stretch around and plug things,
Yeah, and I don't know if you saw, by the way, and my Everybody Hates Cleveland crowd, Adam Burke and I go back to the Cleveland fan, and Adam's writing over at EHC now too. And he had a column the other day where he was pretty much ripping Francona, and he was ripping the team for having this sort of comfort zone mindset. In other words, if you don't have a yeller and screamer of a manager, and you have a guy that's even keel and he's not going to get in your case, and then invariably almost you have players who are happy to play under that little umbrella of that comfort zone, if you will. And maybe there's a little bit too much complacency on this team. Maybe there's not enough accountability and fire coming from the manager, because too many guys are we're in Cleveland, we haven't won a World Series in half a century. Who cares if we don't win one this year? Tito's a great guy, we love him, and we're going to go out every day, and maybe there's not enough fire breathing, ass kicking accountability from the manager. Maybe the players are too comfortable. What do you think about that?
Let me jump in there then, because where do you go from that statement? Because that's the statement that usually precedes time for a change at the manager, and I am absolutely the furthest person from that guy. I don't care.
Oh, I hear you. I hear you.
And
so Adam
what do you
Adam
do?
Writes his article fully knowing.
What do you do?
Adam writes the article fully knowing that is the case. Thou shalt not criticize Tito in this town.
I'm not saying
it's like
that.
Commandment
I'm just
number
saying,
11.
I don't want to replace him, is what I'm saying. I can understand the criticism of there not being fire, but I think that you're throwing out, it's cutting off your nose to spite your face. But how do you fix that? Because I guess if teams knew how to do that,
I think what he's
managers.
saying, and I can maybe just paraphrase, is you've got to do something, and the only thing you can do is shake up the roster.
Absolutely.
There's got to be, and I don't mean shake up the batting order. I mean shake up the roster.
And they're starting to do that. Tito, I was going to go there with you. Tito said, it's the closest I've seen him come to saying, listen, you guys aren't hitting and you just got to deal with it. When he spelled out to the media, there's not enough at-bats. There's too many players. There's not enough at-bats, and some of these guys aren't used to this, but they're going to have to walk in and see if they're playing tonight, because I've got to do what's best for this team. We're starting to reach the point where Michael Bourne's not going to play baseball, and I wondered if the Indians would get to that point, but I think we're reaching there. And Dan, Mike and I were talking about it last week, and, he doubts that the Indians would ever allow themselves to pay Michael Bourne for him not to play, or Nick Swisher for him not to play. But as Michael Bourne is now benched again, as Nick Swisher goes 0 for 3 again, I disagree. I don't think all of these guys are going down with the ship, because I don't think it would be just Terry Francona that's at risk here, because remember, one protects the other, and I think that there's very much more than just one ball at play there, man. So unless the whole domino topples down, I think that you've got to think about that part there too, man. I mean, I don't know. Yeah. What do you think?
Well, I think what we're looking at is, and here again, I'm talking about Adam Burke's speculation that what he's saying, what it appears to him, is that Chris Antonetti and Mark Shapiro put the roster together for opening day, but this team and the moves that they make and don't make give all appearances that from opening day on, that Tito Francona is in charge of the 25-man roster and not Chris Antonetti. That once the season starts, that Francona is the guy that's making the decisions about personnel, who comes up and who goes down. Whether that's something that he negotiated when he took the job, who knows? We don't know that. But
so you think that's true?
And he's putting forth evidence of saying, that with the veterans, with the Rayburns and the Murphys and all these other guys, and that part of it has played out. Really, if Francona is responsible for that, he's guessed right in that. Rayburn and Murphy both have been playing reasonably well. And Rayburn certainly hitting the ball this year, alternate years, it appears. But, I don't know. He makes a compelling case for that, is all I'm saying. And I don't necessarily line up with him on that theory, but he does make a compelling case that from opening day on, that this is Francona's roster, not Antonetti's roster, and he thinks that's doing things ass backwards.
Well, I hear you there because, and I don't know about that because I have doubt. What do you think? Let's use Bourne and Swisher there. I mean, okay, so if Terry Francona says, "Hey, look, man, I just can't play this guy. He's just not getting it done." I mean, that's where Mike and I disagree. He just does not believe, and he's right. Traditionally, the Indians have never eaten salary. They just don't do it. They will in a trade to get a little better of a return back, but as far as paying a guy not to play, traditionally they just don't do that unless there's an injury reason why the guy's not playing. So, I mean, because I think you're at that point, and it sounds to me in Terry Francona's words that he's saying that, man, I haven't completely given up on you, but at this point, man, I can't go down with your ship.
Yeah, you're right, and that would play against maybe Adam's theory because usually when you've got high-paid players that are in the lineup for no apparent reason, that's the reason that they're paying them and they're going to play. We're not going to pay you not to play. And with Bourne and Swisher together, yeah, you're between $25 and $30 million a year. Am I right? About 15 for Swish and about 12 or 13
12 and
for
a half
Bourne,
for
something
Bourne.
like that.
Yeah, 12 and a half.
So
for
you're
Bourne,
you're sitting at $28 million that you just assume put out the pasture.
That's a third of your
Francona's
roster.
making noises that way, and yet they're still playing. So it's usually the front office saying, "Hey, man, I don't care what his batting average is. His checks are clearing, and he's going to pay."
Right, absolutely. I mean, think about that 28. Mike and I talked about that the other day. Even if you want to complain that they've only got a $90 million payroll, you've got a third of it that's dead. A third of it that's just dead money. I mean, even if you're only spending $90 million, I bet you and I could sit around and fantasy baseball that $28 million into a better roster for the Indians. You know what I mean? I'm
right.
Sure,
yeah. And if you're the New York Yankees, that's a seventh of your payroll,
right.
not a third of it.
Right. Exactly.
And you can write it off. Or if you're the Red Sox, you can just go get somebody, Pablo Sandoval and whoever, and get rid of the Carl Crawfords of the world and make those kinds of deals and spin off 30 and acquire 30 million like it's pocket change. But obviously this franchise can't do that. And you're right, when you've got a third of your payroll it's just flat dead. Dead's a very good word for it. As I watched Nick Swisher pop up with the tying run on second base last night with one out, that was a thought that crossed my mind. That, kind of kicking myself because 2 weeks ago you and I were sitting here going, well, maybe Nick Swisher can add some emotion and some punch to this thing. And admittedly, we were desperate. We were grasping at straws. But 2 weeks later, he's making us look silly.
Absolutely. Now, I found the quote here. You tell me. Here's what I'm talking about. When you hear Terry Francona talking about the outfielders here, he said he got the group together yesterday and told them that there's changes now with the way guys are playing. He benched Bourne, as we talked. It was against lefties. Now he benched him against a righty. He put David Murphy out there. And here's his quote. And this is where I say I'm just taking what he's saying and listening to that. It's different than what he used to say. He said, I told those guys as we're made up now, there's an extra bat in there. I have an obligation to do what's best for the team and also communicate with the media. He asked the media to be respectful because a lot of these guys have never been in this position before where they had to see if they're playing that night. So he wanted to make sure that he talked to the guys before telling the media, and now he's done that, and now he's letting the media know. And I think that to me, I mean, look, Michael Bourne, unless he was injured, was in that lineup from the day that we signed him, no matter whether he was hitting 400 or 200. Now, in the last 3 weeks, he's gone from down from the leadoff spot to the bottom of the lineup, not hitting against lefties, to now not playing at all unless they feel like it's a gut feeling to put him in there that day. That signals to me a manager who has given up on Michael Bourne.
Yeah, that's true, because any baseball player will tell you the only way you can't break out of a slump if you're not in the lineup.
Right.
That's a positive mentality that every player has. I got to get in there and take my cuts. How am I gonna break out of the thing if I'm not getting regular at bats? When those at bats are no longer forthcoming, then you got to believe your manager doesn't think you can hit your way out of your slump, or your head or your bat or your swing or something is so messed up that I'm not going to let you go out and experiment on my dime, with my reputation, with my team's record, at stake. And that does appear that that's where Tito is right now.
I mean, that's what. Okay, so that's not just me. That's why I wanted to make sure that you're hearing that the same way that I am. I mean, and that's a word for word quote, and the guy's not playing. So, I mean, at that point, what happens there? Because that's something that has. You know what I mean? That's a question that I've got now, because and I was bringing that up with Mike last week, even before this latest benching here, because I'm like, man, to me, this is different. You held out for 2 years. Now in 3 weeks, you've made 3 different drastic changes with the guy. That is something that doesn't seem like we're going to wait a week and then go, hey, we're going to give Bourne another shot out there, because you've done it. You gave him 2 solid seasons to get himself together, and now it just feels like it's at the point where I think they would not play him, because it hurts them more to have him out there than it does to pay him to sit on the bench.
Yeah, and we've talked about some of the other options that you might like to see playing in the outfield for this team. Let's assume that Brantley takes center field. It certainly is worth an experiment at this point. You're 11-20, and you're reaching up to, pretty soon you're at that quarter pole, and none of us are going to be able to be allowed to say it's still early anymore. You're going to get shot down if you start with that kind of talk.
You got to switch it to it's still June.
Maybe
it's
you
still
start
June.
going. Maybe it's James Ramsey time. Maybe it's time for some of these other kids to come up and start playing, because they can hardly do work and they can bat 174.
Let's go there. This isn't the outfield, because I don't know that I'll make the same Ramsey argument right now. That, to me, is a later in the season when we've given up and thrown up the white flag. But the one you can make now that's not throwing up the white flag is Lindor. And I think I've said it. If he was playing any better at AAA, he'd already be up, because Ramirez didn't just open the door. He kicked it open and said, here you go, Francisco. Come on up to the big leagues. And but I think even at that point, man, if he's going to struggle, let him struggle up here, because get the thing rolling, because that may be a jolt, maybe a jump. I don't know. As we talk about, changing the roster is more than just changing the lineup. And I'm not saying that he'll change anybody's fortunes, but they need something. We said maybe Swisher. It's not Swisher. It's got to come from somewhere, and that's at least something that would have a little bit of buzz. The locker room would buzz. Hey, the kid's coming up. The fan base would buzz a little bit, all 3,000 or so that are still going to the games. I mean, you'll be down there with a small, intimate gathering tomorrow afternoon. I'm sure it'll be
yes, we will.
You and 6 of your friends.
Right. You're right that if Lindor was hitting down AAA, it would be different. You can hardly blame a kid for having a great spring, which he did, and then sort of being disappointed going down there, being a little bit of a funk. And who knows if there's anything more than that. We're not watching him every day.
No.
To know what whether it's a mechanical thing or whatever it is, or if it's strictly a mental thing. But you're right, and you're absolutely right that Ramirez has kicked the door open and put a doorstop in it just to make sure it doesn't close. And really, with both the bat and the glove, he hasn't been as reliable on defense as he was the second half last year. Got 4, 5, 6 errors already this year, hitting, it seems lost at the plate anymore. It's not like you're giving something up to make that move and bring up your future and let him take his lumps on an 11-20 team instead of trying to take his lumps, as if you were, fighting for a playoff spot.
You know what, though? I mean, at this point, we always pointed to the June 1st target as far as service time. I mean, at this point, if you're the Indians, as much as maybe it gives you a spark, you can easily talk yourself into waiting 2 more weeks at this point, because why it's not going to change your fortunes that much, et cetera, and so forth. And
is June 1st when the service service time credit is officially a moot point where he. All right. Well, you're right. You can wait till June 1, but it's got to happen then, because he's the future. Let's get it rolling.
Absolutely, and again, maybe it gets some energy. I mean, really, here, let's talk about tonight's game. Looking at Corey Kluber, and we've talked about how, I mentioned it a few times, I love to go find the stats and talk about how close he is to the last season, and in some ways that's true, although trending a bit away. Although I agree, if the team was supporting him better, check this out. He is the third Cy Young winner, as we've mentioned before, Frank Viola, Zach Greinke, the only other ones that went winless in their first 7 starts after winning the Cy Young. All 3 got terrible run support within 2.5 runs a game, somewhere in that area. However, the difference is that, and now think about this, we say tough luck or whatever, Kluber's 0-5, his ERA is 5.04. Greinke went through that same stretch with a 2.5 ERA. Talk about tough luck. Starting your season with a 2.5 ERA and going winless in your first 7 starts because you were only getting 2.5 runs per game from the other team, or from your team. Unbelievable. But anyway.
Yeah, you're right. But and you're right that Kluber did pitch in tough luck his first, I'm going to say 3 starts.
First couple. Yeah,
2 or 3 where he really, really pitched well, got 0 run support, and then ended up having a couple of tough losses hung on him, a couple of no decisions. But after that, like you say, 5.0 is 5.0. You are what your ERA is what it is, and he's been getting knocked around.
And I'll tell you what, he's got his back against the wall here tonight because Lackey's coming in against him. He had a 10 strikeout performance, a great one last time out for the Cardinals. But not only that, Kluber, I'll tell you, what's he got? 4 lost starts in a row, career high for him. He's never lost 4 starts in a row here. Last time out, nothing pretty at all. He gave up 5 runs in 6 innings, 5 2/3 innings. It wasn't even a whole 6 innings in that game against Kansas City. In this losing streak, his ERA is 7.43 during this 4-start losing streak, and that is not tough luck. That's the part where it shows that he's been struggling as well. But if he loses tonight, he will set an infamous record as he will be the first Cy Young Award winner. Both Viola and Greinke won their 8th start. He would be the first to go 8 starts without a victory after winning the Cy Young if he loses tonight. And again, like I said, the Tribe has no easy performance here. They couldn't get it done against Lynn last night, which I thought was their best opportunity of the series to win a game. And Lackey's coming in here. Like I mentioned, 10 strikeouts in his last game, but he's only given up 2 runs in his last 2 starts, and that's nearly 14 innings. So he's pitching very well, and he's always pitched pretty well against the Indians in general.
Yeah, my recollection is, I don't know, I usually go to Wahoo Sports for that kind of stuff when I'm looking up a pitcher's career record against a given team. But that's and of course you got Walker tomorrow, so it's not looking good if you can't win this game tonight. I would sure like to see them avoid that dubious record for Kluber. He obviously, like I said, it's started out tough luck. Lately, it's been not pitching well, and so yeah, you just gotta break the string. And of course, the Kluber situation is just a microcosm of the greater Indian season. It's been great promise and unfulfilled so far, and just disappointment on both fronts.
You know what's amazing is that the Indians are only 6-9 on the road. They're 5-11 at Progressive Field at home, where they're always, especially in the last few seasons, where they've played extremely well. They are 5-11 at home to start the season. Now, part of that is just they've started poorly and had a lot of home games, but still not able to take advantage here at all.
Yeah. Hey, Jared, before we go, I wanted to ask you about Brady.
Absolutely.
What's your take? I mean, I haven't heard you talk about it. What are you thinking on the poor New England Patriots?
Hey, I talked about it yesterday, and I'll tell you where I'm at with it. I'm curious where you are, too. To me, I look at it 2 different ways. I have no problem at all with punishment against the New England Patriots. I equated it to if you're Ohio State, we would know this better than anybody. When you've got assistants or coaches that make recruiting violations or things of that nature, the entire university is held responsible, even if they were rogue guys, because you have to watch your guys better. It's your responsibility, just like when an athlete fails a drug test, and it's your responsibility to know what you're taking and all of that stuff. So to me, if you had locker room attendants breaking the rules and doing what. And I'm saying, hey, you can think maybe Belichick. I don't know. Since their own report didn't tie in Belichick or anybody to that, I don't think you can make that assumption at all. So if you've got some guys doing what they're doing, you got to hold the Patriots responsible. I got no problem with a fine for the franchise or draft picks or anything, especially because they do have a prior. My thing is with Brady, and here's why. Mainly, not just the second half of the game. I mean, I get the argument that trying to cheat and being successful at it are two different things, and I'm fine with that. So you can't just say because they blew out the Colts, although to me, that ends the argument right there, the second half of that game. But to me, and I just find this kind of amazing that the NFL went the way they did in the Brady direction. Unless, if you want to believe that he went to some locker room guys and said, I want illegal footballs to play with. Me personally, I look at it as a matter of he made it. You should never give teams the option of, well, you can have your football at this weight or anywhere in between. But to me, that's, hey, I like them as low as they're allowed to be. And a couple of guys said, hey, Tom likes them soft, so we're going to make them a little bit softer. And that, to me, is an equivalent of a clubhouse guy saying, hey, I like the maximum amount of pine tar on my bat. So the guy puts a little bit more, thinking that that's what you want. You never asked him to do it. You simply told him that you wanted the maximum that you could do, and he thought he was hooking you up. He thought he was doing you a favor. But anyways, even if you go past all that, the wording in the report bothers me. More probable than not just means I think you did it, but I have absolutely no evidence to prove that you did. And not only that, we're not talking Belichick. We're not talking about Robert Kraft. We're not talking about the Patriots. Tom Brady is a man whose reputation was above reproach in the league. And so it's not like he's a guy who had whispers behind his back that maybe he was doing this or that. And I know he's a Michigan guy, but plain and simple, he was always pointed as a guy that was above board, a guy to look up to, all of these things. So to me, I think you cast the benefit of the doubt in that direction. I just don't believe that Tom Brady needed a half a pound of air out of his footballs the other 12 years of his career, all the other Super Bowls that he's won, all the other things that they've done. Plus, let's not forget that the NFL willingly tampered with the integrity of their championship game so that they could even try to figure this thing out to begin with by letting them play. It'd be like letting guys play the World Series with corked bats so you could prove that they were using a corked bat. You still messed up the integrity of the World Series, you know what I mean? So, I don't know, but that's me in a nutshell. Get the Patriots, go after the locker room guys.
I'm with you on that, although I will point out that more probable than not basically means in NFL parlance by the preponderance of the evidence. It's not. I don't think it's a secret, or it's not a secret anymore, that the text messages that they pulled off of these equipment guys' phones referred to Brady as the deflator. That's what they called him.
No, that's not what it was. The guy he called himself the deflator.
The deflator. Okay, well, certainly it appears as though, and
here's
the phone conversations, Brady's 45-minute phone conversation the day this broke with the equipment guy, presumably to get a story straight about what they were going to do and how they were going to do it. I mean, certainly there's a preponderance of evidence that Brady was involved. He didn't want to give up his phone without his lawyer being involved and all these kinds of things. And I haven't read this whole 200 and some page report, whatever it was, but certainly it appears that Brady was in cahoots with the equipment guys to take air out of the football. The other thing that's been pointed out, it's not just Brady. When the Patriots, at the same time that this is going on with Brady and the deflated footballs, all of a sudden they're having historic low rates of fumbling in their games. They fumbled less than any other team. So it's not just when Brady throws the football that he's got the football deflated to the way he likes it. It very possibly has a very real effect on the Patriots' decreased propensity to fumble the football as they had record lows in fumbling rates. At the same time that this other stuff was going on. So it just is more fuel to the fire. Like you, I have no trouble with the penalties.
I'm with you there, Dan. Let me jump in.
Like John McMullen, I read his column the other day. I don't know if you saw it, but McMullen's thing and is basically anybody that thinks that every other team, since they allowed teams to, prepare their own footballs for their own offense to play, hasn't been doing this, is crazy. That he thinks, he's guilty, but everybody does it, so why are we making such a big fuss over it? I'm, of course, paraphrasing John. But that's his thing. Why is everybody so worked up about this just because these guys got caught? And like you say, you're a habitual offender, New England. You've done this before. You've got priors, as they say. So
right.
But I just think the fumbling aspect is something that hasn't been talked about enough. As being, it's not just that this is the ball Brady likes to throw or the ball his receivers like to catch. It has to do with every single snap, every single running play, because if a deflated ball can have something to do with the propensity to fumble, and you can see how it might, then it's even more serious than just the quarterback's preferences on throwing.
And I'm with you on all of that. And I'm going to jump in with what you're saying there, because here's where I come back. I will not dispute with anybody that Tom Brady had told them exactly what he wanted with the footballs. And this is where I say, I think it's nuts. You can't show up to the queue and have your choice of what air pressure you want the basketball blown up in. I can't believe that a league doesn't have just a set. This is the way equipment is standard. So I'm kind of bothered that there's a variable in general, because the team can decide, 12.5 to 13.5 pounds or whatever. So there's a range there. So to me, you're inviting this whole thing because some guys, and Aaron Rodgers came right out and said, hey, I like it on the maximum end. I like the football with as much air in it as possible. So he probably tells his locker room guys to blow up the football to the maximum end. And so I have no disagreement that I believe Tom Brady, hey, this is the way I like it. Just like in any sport, your guys know how you like it, how you like your resin bag, how you like your pine tar, how you like all your equipment. And that's why you take care of the clubhouse guys at the end of the year. So, but I believe that there's a huge difference between saying, hey, you know how I like it, as low as it can go, and telling the guys to cheat, because I read all those text messages and none of them say, hey, Tom told me to make sure that the footballs are illegal, or he told me to juice them down. He said, you know how he likes them. Of course. I mean, to me, there's nothing that says Tom Brady said, hey, cheat. He said, this is how I like my footballs prepared. And to me, there's not a big leap to assume that I know how much guys love to be popular with celebrities and athletes, and all on a small level. I've seen that in my own life, and guys will do anything to hang out and be cool and whatever. So if you know that,
now,
to
but
me,
Jerry,
it's not a...
let me just
Go
say
ahead.
that it seemed to me that the tone of those text messages was not the tone of some guys who were worshipful of Tom Brady, or that were trying to curry favor
they didn't like him sometimes.
They didn't like
I
the
know.
guy.
I know. I saw that.
It seemed like it was the opposite of that, really. And the other thing that comes to mind is the old line, Shakespeare, I guess, the emperor, when he says, who will rid me of this meddlesome priest? You're not saying go kill this priest, but you're saying, you're just wondering aloud, who will rid me of this meddlesome priest? Someone's going to take the hint, and go do it. That doesn't make you less guilty of in effect ordering that to happen. So that's just the way that I look at it. Brady, no, he might not have given an explicit order, and if he had, they certainly aren't going to admit it. But anyway, I'm tired of the whining out of New England about the page. You're just jealous. You hate us because you ain't us. This kind of stuff. No, guys, it's because you broke the rules.
If there wasn't something going on, there wouldn't have been something to look into. I don't find it that much of a preponderance of a leap of faith or whatever to assume that some guys went rogue a little bit here and thought that they were doing something. Now there's another permutation of this, and I talked to a buddy about this last night. I said, maybe along the way Tom Brady figured out what they were doing and didn't do anything to put his foot down and stop it or anything like that. There's other ways it could go that's equally as bad. You know what I mean? So whatever. None of us know except those guys, and we'll see. But I will say, hey, at the same time, the New Orleans Saints were found guilty of a whole bunch of things, and some of those guys took the league to court and were found not to be guilty of some of those things. So who knows? Because I got a funny feeling Tom Brady's taking the league to court over this thing. And
well, I read this morning that the union has drafted his letter of appeal.
Yeah, they're going to jump in on this
thing today, and this is not going to be over for a long time. But yeah, it's just one way to talk about NFL football when the season's over.
There's some people right now probably going, man, J-Rocc, I can't believe you're sticking up for Tom Brady. And if he had any shred of anything over him, I'd be like, yep, now they finally got that Brady guy. But to me, prior to this, he was above reproach. I mean, people looked at him. He was even separate from the Patriots mess. You know what I mean? Like, he was kind of a little different from people say, oh, the Patriots cheap. Well, Tom Brady's a good guy, and Belichick's, whatever. But so I always thought that part of it, that gets me too, because it's like, man, you just, so quick to assume that this guy, did this.
Well, I guess when you've got the record of a 45-minute phone call the day the story breaks, with him talking to the equipment guy.
Well,
you've got to wonder what that's about, and you've got to ask him about it, and he's got to be forthright with his answer.
And then to me, though, and I'm just throwing this out here, Dan. I'm just throwing this out here. You can have a 45-minute phone call without, conspiring to have a story. I mean, if you've got this guy going, hey, don't worry, Tom, I'm not going to, well, don't worry about it. There's not really, anything to say. You didn't break the rules, did you? No, man. Okay, then. I'm just saying. It doesn't, I'm with you, though.
Yeah, you know how he likes them, the guy said. Yeah.
I'm with you, brother.
Oh, well.
But see, that's the thing. You know how he likes them is not the same as he likes them illegal. It just means he likes them at the bottom of the see, that's where I go back to why
fellas, if you want to keep me happy, you'll take a little bit of air out of the ball.
That's true, but why in the world does a league allow, and Mike Brandenberry said it last week, he goes, $1 billion league, and they're the only sport in the world, it's like Little League, where the team brings their own footballs to the game. Like, come on, you could solve this whole thing by providing league-provided footballs and just like every other sport,
however misguided that policy was, that policy's over.
Oh, has to be, I mean, come on.
Yeah,
I mean, we're bringing it's like Little League. It's like you got the bats, you got the balls, we got 9 balls over here. All right, we've got enough to play the game, Come on, guys. And we're a $1 billion league, and we're measuring up footballs before the deal. I'm with you, man, and I think that. And here's the other thing I mentioned. I tweeted this the other day. I just find it funny. More time has been spent investigating deflated footballs than anything involving domestic violence, child abuse, crime, anything in the last 12 months. The longest investigation for the NFL has been in the air pressure in footballs.
Yeah, and, well, you can at least make the case that footballs has to do with football.
True.
Which is what the NFL should be concerned about more. So, there's no way that Roger Goodell will ever stop a player from smacking his wife around if that player is inclined to do that. I guess that would be the flip side of that. Yeah, you can have programs and you can have counseling and you can have, but investigation, we're going to, Ray Rice got punished severely because there was video, and that's the only reason he got punished severely.
Hey,
but in other words, it's just at least the football thing has to do with football, and the other stuff is human nature and human behavior that certainly can't be controlled from the commissioner's office.
Hey, Frank Clark ended up in the NFL draft because he got kicked out of school for what he did, and he went to the 63rd pick in the draft to the Seattle Seahawks. Man,
Yeah,
I'm just
that's
saying.
Right. If you got talent, you can play as a professional. You don't have to be. You don't have to be.
And you and I know. I mean, that's just one example. Your draft was just last week, and. Open arms, big hug. Let's welcome. I'm just saying. It's too funny. But anyways,
any takes on Brown's rookie minicamp?
I mean, at least nobody got hurt.
Did you hear much?
You saw
everything I heard was glowing positive.
I'm sorry. What'd you say?
I just said everything I heard about it. Reports from the people that were there were glowing positives. Everybody from Danny Shelton to Vince Maley to Nate Orchard, and people are really loving what they were seeing.
Well, Maley's not much. He had to have surgery. Actually, that was, I think, the disappointment that came out of it was that they found out that he, I think that's the downside of only being able to have so much contact with guys, is they found out that they could have got a better start on getting his broken thumb healed there, so they went ahead and had him have surgery. I think that's going to cost him the start of the season, though. It may set him back a little bit from there. But, in general, here's the thing, though. Yeah, glowing reviews, but last year Johnny Manziel was doing great in his first rookie camp too. You know what I mean?
That's true, and it's good to hear that he's a new man now.
Absolutely, as we knew, I think 6 months ago we talked about this already. The story has reached that point now where everybody's proud of him, and he may just be able to play himself into the conversation. What do you know, Dan, how this is slowly working out? I got to tell you, I hope it's true. As a Browns guy, obviously, I hope that it works out for them, and that would be really well, because then that wasn't a wasted first-round pick last year, but there's a long way to go to get there, and I still have my doubts,
Well, yeah, the man on the bubble, as I said a week or so ago, is John DeFilippo. He's going to be the guy that has to put something together to make first down, score points, and make chicken salad out of chicken whatever.
I'm ready to see the defense, though, because it's not so much there. That side's much, much more potent. That's a playoff caliber defense.
That's taken as a given. That's why I say that the man on the on the hot seat is the 37-year-old offensive coordinator who's never done this job before in this league, and his assistant Kevin Connell, who hasn't done it either.
Absolutely. Duke Johnson, heard great things about him coming out of here, too, catching some passes out of the backfield and doing some things, man. I think it's not out of the realm of possibility that he's in the main mix right off the bat there, man, and who knows, he could grab that job right away from those other guys, man.
Yeah, that's true. I did hear good things about him, too, and Gaines and some other kids, too. So anyway, we'll find out. Way too early for that. I just thought I'd run that by you before I signed off here today.
For sure. Also, they got a half a dozen tight ends coming in undrafted. They're going to find a tight end. You can tell somebody that you've never heard of is going to play tight end for the Browns this year. Mark it down in the books because they've got six.
Well, that's okay because, frankly, I never heard of Jim Dray and Gary Barnett before they ended up putting on the orange helmet.
I knew Barnage, but not Dray.
Well, he was a free agent signing, and he had been in the league, but all of a sudden Jim Dray shows up, and he's on the field playing tight end, and I had to check my program.
No, they've got a bunch of big tight end prospects, a bunch of guys 6'2", 6'4", 6'6", bunch of different guys. So some of the guys, I'm telling you though, man, look at what they did last year, and I'm telling you, 2 or 3 guys, undrafted guys, will make this team again this year. No doubt in my mind. No doubt.
Yeah, I'm with you. One of them may be a wide receiver, or whatever, it's a Kyle Prater or somebody like that, and.
They haven't confirmed him yet?
Some tight end's going to make it, and some offensive lineman's probably going to make it.
They haven't confirmed Prater yet? I'll tell you, I wonder if there's other teams maybe talking with him that's holding up the deal, because they've confirmed about 14 different undrafted free agents in emails that I've gotten, and they have not he has not been one of them yet. Like, that's one that we all heard was coming, but who knows? There may be a tie-up as far as just the actual signing bonus maybe or whatever that comes with that. But he hasn't been confirmed just yet.
I hadn't heard that, and I thought one of the guys that was out at that minicamp had referred to seeing him there. He may have been there and not been official.
I'm just talking about contract-wise. They have not announced officially.
A signing of him, yeah.
They've signed 14 different undrafted guys so far, but he's not one of them. They added 8 yesterday, and I think 6 a couple days before that. But I'm sure he'll be there because, he was at the camps, but still hasn't come to terms yet. All right, my man, Dan, I'll tell you what. I don't know where we're going to be Monday when you and I talk. I don't know where the Indians will be either. They'll be in Texas, but who knows where they'll be.
Well, the Cavs series will be over when we get together, and so
for sure.
Keep my fingers crossed in the meantime, and we'll kick back and enjoy some basketball.
For sure, the series is over.
Do you have a prediction about tomorrow night? I mean, are you calling Cavs in 6?
I had the Cavs in 6 from the beginning, but man, it's gonna take everything to go to Chicago and win that game. But I think you can do it. I do. I think the Cavaliers.
Yeah, I think you can too. When you think about it, the game that they won in Chicago. I mean, if you chalk up Game 1 as sort of a aberration that the Cavs, were coming out on 8 days rest and a little bit shaky and minus 2 starters and all that, and sort of chalk that up as an aberration. the game that the Bulls won, Game 3 in Chicago, it took a last-second bomb to win it, and it took LeBron going, 8 for 26 or whatever he was from the field.
Yep.
It's a pretty bad effort by the Cavs, plus a last-second shot for the Bulls to win the game on their home floor. I really do. I think they're going to come out and keep it close the whole game and just find a way down the stretch to pull away and win it. So that's you didn't ask for a prediction, but that's what I'm saying. I think they're going to find a way to get it done tomorrow and hopefully get about 4 or 5 days rest then before they go into the conference final.
That's the best case scenario, is finish it in 6, and then hopefully Atlanta and Washington go all 7. They got Game 5 coming up tonight there too, and then that'll get you those extra 2 or 3 days rest while you wait for the other series to finish up too. We'll see, man.
Yeah,
come
right.
Monday.
All
we'll
right.
know.
Thanks a lot, Jared. I'll be back to you Monday.
You got it, Dan. My man, Dan the Man Wismar from EverybodyHatesCleveland.com. Man, we're going to call it a day here right off of that extra long conversation with Dan Wismar. We're going to wrap it up here, you guys, and we'll be back here tomorrow. John McMullen from the Sports Network, he'll be with us. We'll get his take on the Browns and mini camps and Brady and his thoughts about the punishment with the Patriots. We'll get Mike Brandenberry from DidTheTribeWinLastNight.com in on the conversation as well tomorrow. Should be a lot of fun. As long as we're talking Cavs with Mike Brandenberry, should be a lot of fun. The Indians conversation will go a different path. We'll talk about all of that. Tribe tonight. Corey Kluber, as we mentioned, looking to break some bad history here. Hopefully he doesn't set it tonight. Indians and Cardinals, another early start. 6:10 tonight for the Tribe and the Cards as they get at it. Corey Kluber and John Lackey should be a good one down at the corner of Carnegie in Ontario. We'll be back here tomorrow. Talk about that. Set the stage for Cavs, Bulls, Game 6, and so much more. Same bad time, same bad channel. Live here at noon tomorrow across the Sports Fix Radio Network. We love you, Cleveland and beyond. We'll see you tomorrow, baby, right here on the Sports Fix.
Model tried to steal my heart, but we brought it back. Thanks to Cleveland Clinic, now they call them Kiss the Cardiac. Rock Cars, Science Center, Tower City, all of that. Warehouse District, Euclid Corridor, and all the flat. You know that I'm a Tribes fan, and I love Slimans. Crockett Park's the perfect place for me to spend some time in. Baby, this is Cleveland. It is so much more to us. You can even go to Severance Hall to see an orchestra. Hey.